Hello everybody and welcome to the Magical Learning Podcast for this week. We're back, it's the start of a new year and we've started off with a topic that is one that's relevant to New Year's and New Year's resolutions. It's good habits and bad habits. You may have done a New Year's resolution this year and you're wondering how to stick with it. Well, this is a great podcast for you. Hope you've enjoyed the Adapt podcast with Danette FM and otherwise, have a magical week. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Magical Learning Podcast. It's been over a month since you've heard from us because you've been listening to the Adapt with Danette FM podcast, which I'm sure you've been loving. But we're actually recording this in November last year. So if anything exciting's happened that we need to be talking about that seems obvious that ML would be talking about, I'm sorry. We've recorded this before that. So you'll have to wait till the next episode. But let's jump around and see how the team's going. So Danette, how are you going this week?
Yeah, good, Jez. I've had a full week where I was in Canberra on Monday and then down at Mum and Dad's for the rest of the week. And I've had 5 workshops in 3 days. So it's been full on. But the beautiful news was on Sunday, our chickens hatched 3 little baby guinea fowls. So cute. And Graham's looking after them while I'm at Mum and Dad's.
Very cute. Very cute. And Leggers, how are you going this week?
Oh, yeah, I'm good. I finished uni 2 weeks ago, which is very exciting. And then I was in Thailand last week as a little holiday with some friends. And now I'm just back at work and just trying to organize my life a little bit. But no, it's been really good. I'm feeling much better. So it's all good.
Nice one. Nice one. And good to have you on the pod as well, Leggers.
Thank you. Thank you.
That's all right. Grahame, how are you going this week?
Hey Jess, I'm good. Excited about it being Friday. Had lots of fun wildlife experiences in the last 24 hours, including yet another snake dropping in to say hi on the veranda. I've had a fox in the backyard this morning, guinea fowl going nuts, blue-tongued lizards wandering around. So, life's pretty good.
Might need one of the Irwin family to move into the farm, it sounds like.
Well, I hope Ozio's not listening to this, but I am going to Canada next week and I may not come back.
Yes, well, I think there's less snakes there, so that's a positive. John, how are you going this week?
Good, Jess. Howdy all. Sorry I'm a bit late. Yeah, look, it's another week that's ticked off. We're getting closer to Christmas, so closer to stopping work and having a rest, which is I'm really looking forward to.
Amazing. Well, great to have you on, John. And today we're going to be talking about good habits and bad habits. This podcast is coming out, I think in the middle of January from what my scheduling brain is saying. So people will have no doubtedly tried New Year's resolutions. Some will be sticking, some won't be. So I thought let's just break it down today. We've got a lot of answers from teammates that aren't even here today. So I think we're just going to have to dive right in. So I might start with you, Danette. Question 1 is, what are some problems people may run into when trying to start new habits?
So I think a classic one, and given this will come out about mid-January, is that people set big goals, particularly New Year's resolutions, like I'm going to run a marathon or I'm going to lose 20 kilos or whatever. And our brain doesn't like big change. So a way better is to make smaller changes. But our brain, if it's too big, it just goes too much. The other thing is sometimes people try to put in place too many. So again, our brain becomes overwhelmed. Now, I'm conscious there's heaps of other people on the call, so I won't say any more than that. Thanks, Jez.
No worries. And thanks for that, Danette. Great ones to start us off there with. And I like that you didn't go too big, you actually stuck to your own advice there. Good stuff. Leggers, what are some problems people may run into when trying to start new habits?
I would say that I am not very good at creating and starting brand new habits and sticking with them. So this is just coming from personal experience, but I found that getting it over and done with early in the morning, if you can, has helped me as opposed to I'll get to it just before dinner or something. And then eventually something gets in the way and dinner has to come around and then it's off for the day. And that too many days in a row, the habit is just completely gone. So I find that if I can get it done early in the day, that will make it like it's checked off the list. I feel good about it all day because I've done it. And then, yeah, that's how I sort of stick with them. But yeah, I had more, but I'll let others speak because it's tight.
No worries, like it's great suggestion as well there. I think that's one I've been doing a little bit more of, so love it. Grahame, I'll go to you. What are some problems people may run into when trying to start new habits?
The short version is your brain. Your brain is not your friend when it comes to creating new habits. So I think just perseverance more than anything else.
And I guess we'll come back to what perseverance could look like in question 3, I think. So it tees us up for later in the conversation. Good on Grahame. John, I'll throw to you. What are some problems people may run into when trying to start new habits?
Mine's very much aligned to what Grahame was saying. It's that convincing yourself to actually do it. So yeah, look, know that I need to do something different, whether it's lose 20 kilos, want to run a marathon, whatever it is. But convincing yourself and convincing your own brain to actually start is often the challenge. So it's, I found before doing a marathon, it took me about 12 months. And someone pointed out to me that, when I said, I'm going to run a marathon, they said, yeah, you were talking about that 12 months ago. And it's like, yeah, okay, sure. So yeah, look, I'll get there. So convincing yourself to start.
And I think that also kind of taps into like good friends there, reminding you like this,
Sure.
yeah, this can't just be sort of like, yeah, what you're just talking about. I love that. Great example, John. Well, excitingly, we got some written in answers as well from teammates. So I'm going to throw to Alan's answer to this question. And Alan answered it as, we don't have the time because we can't stop the old habit to make room for the new habit. For example, I'll meditate when I get on top of all this other stuff. That's what he's saying. So like, for example, I'll get to meditation when I get on top of all those other stuff. A wise person said, meditate for 30 minutes a day, unless you don't have time, then meditate for 2 hours a day. So that's Al's 2 bits there, which I loved. Great to hear from Al again. And here is Marg's answers, which is, again, what are some problems people may run into when trying to start new habits? And Marg's answer was lack of commitment. Don't schedule in the time for their new habit, or do the complete opposite and go too hard, too fast and burn themselves out. Great answers from there, and great to hear from the team sending in their written answers. Very cool. All right, well, John, I'm going to start with you here because our topic is good habits and bad habits. So I'm going to start with you here. What makes a habit good or bad?
I guess for me, it's just how it serves you. So does it serve you in a positive way or does it serve you in a negative way? And that's a simple way to determine whether it's a good or a bad habit for you. And just because it's a bad habit for me doesn't mean it's a bad habit for someone else. So you've got to keep that in check, that you can't hold everyone accountable by what you do or don't do. But yeah, how does it serve me?
Great way to look at it, John. Love it. Grahame, I'll go to you. What makes a habit good or bad?
Other people's opinions. So I am bucking the trend. I'm trying a new habit today to provide really concise responses rather than rabbiting on as I normally do. Jeez, it's hard. It's so hard. Seriously, I think other people's opinions sometimes enable us to label our habits good or bad. I agree 100% with John. I think, is it serving you? Is a good place to start. Is it helping you show up as a better version of yourself?
Yeah.
But, yeah, people around you can also lead you to believe that you have bad habits.
Yeah.
Because they're not a St. George Laura Dragon supporter. I mean, what would they know? Let's move on. That's it. I'm done.
Yeah, no, I think that there's something between what you two are saying, John and Grahame, that really is like a sort of good point, keeping both those things in check. So love that. Leggers, I'll throw to you. What makes a habit good or bad?
So I sort of quite similar, Larry. I sort of define it into whether it brings you joy or not, and whether it's sort of healthy for you. And like, if it's not healthy, but it brings you joy, potentially that could be like an addiction, which may not be a healthy habit. But like, if it brings you joy and it is healthy, like dancing around your house or something like that, that could be a good habit. So I think it's just, is it making you happier by doing it? And also, is it making your health better by doing it? I think those are two things to keep in mind.
Yeah, and I think that they're good, like, things to sort of add to almost John's look at, like, is it serving me? Does it fit these different criteria as well? So
Yeah, totally.
love it. Love it. Great work, Legas. Danette, what makes a habit good or bad?
And mine's on similar vein to everyone else's. I think one of the things we should always think about is, what is our purpose? What are our values? And so, because they're what's important in our life. So is the habit going to help move towards what's important for you in your life? And if it's not, that's trouble. I definitely agree with Lega's bit about the health bit, because that's the impact on your life. So, yeah, if it feels great, but it's not good from a health wise, then eventually that's going to have a bad impact on your life. So as much as possible, if it helps you move towards what's important in your life and your definition of success, which will be different for every single person, then it's probably good. But if it's going to impact your health, your loved ones and stuff like that, then it's more likely not going to be a great habit.
Yeah, definitely. And I think also, sort of piggybacking off that, I think it also has something to do with what just doing things that serve you in a long-term sense, and sort of seeing the difference between the short-term and long-term. Let's jump into Marg's answer here, though. So Marg's written, I believe that good habits are actions that make you want to keep repeating as they have positive effects on you mentally and physically. So I would agree with that. That's a good answer there, Marg. And Alan has written, to work out if a habit is good or bad, I ask, how's that working for you? For example, I like being right, but that left me living with people who were always wrong, which wasn't much fun in the long run. So we love that, Alan, and thanks for sharing those, Marg and Al.
So did he just simply get rid of his housemates and get a new set in that were, is that how that works?
I think
Is that
so.
called divorce?
Well,
Yeah, I was going to say, Renee, if you're watching this, thank you for helping adjust Alan's approach, or listening to this, I should say.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for that, everybody. Well, let's jump into our third question here, which I'll start with you, Danette. How do we set ourselves up to form great habits? Have you ever created a good habit for yourself? Can even be for a short time.
Yep. So again, coming back to your purpose, what's important to you in your life. I remember reading somewhere, and I definitely heard it from Dr. James as well, but before Dr. James, about the impact that news has on your body. And so I deliberately stopped watching the news and reading the news. And like, such a beautiful thing, because you don't get exposed to things, and people still tell you what's going on. So you don't need to watch it to find out what is going on. The other one I did in COVID, which has sort of fallen off the perch because I've been moving around a lot of late, but I started with, and this came from Tiny Habits and Atomic Habits. So there's two books around habits that are really great. And both of them suggested link a habit to something you already do. So I started before having a shower by doing 15 push-ups on the basin and then celebrating it so that it felt good. And then each day you had to do the 15 and then increase it by 5 and celebrate. And you gave yourself permission to not do 5 extra each day. And pretty quickly I got up to 100 a day. And I linked it to the shower. So I did it right before I hopped in the shower. So yeah, that was a really good way of putting in place a really great habit.
Amazing, Danette. And it shows kind of how simple you can kind of like just attach that to something, and it can form a habit that you already have. So I like that. Legas, I'm going to throw to you now. How do we set ourselves up to form great habits? Have you ever formed a good habit for yourself?
I think a good way, if you struggle with setting habits and keeping yourself accountable to them, is to, if you can, set up an accountability buddy. Like, for example, when we were all living in lockdown together, like, I started working out a lot more, and it was because I was doing it with Kanika. And it was nice to sort of have, like, she was getting ready for the workout, so I would get ready for the workout, and it just sort of like helped with the motivational push, which can really be the toughest part sometimes, is keeping yourself accountable to what you wanted long term, but in the short term maybe you don't feel motivated to do it. So that I found really helpful. But like also when I've like completely fallen off the wagon and like, you know, in my uni days, I was ordering food because I had fallen off the good habit of cooking myself dinner at a timely rate and making myself lunch. So I scaled back and I was like, how can I replace this bad habit? Because I'm just pushing it back and back and back. And by replacing it by just ordering food instead, and therefore it was easy to access, it made it more convenient for me to do. And, you know, it sort of I was able to work it into my life a lot easier. So like sometimes you have to scale back and think, how can I rework things that are sort of regular parts of my life? But by ordering food, I was saving with cooking time, with cleaning time, with the mental load of thinking and preparing dishes in my head. So it was really good for that time to sort of scale back and rethink, how can I, you know, readjust my regular habits as well.
And Leggers, from memory, it was really healthy food you were ordering too.
Yeah, because I was cooking a lot of pasta for myself, and it was, you know, I didn't feel like I was getting a lot of vegetables, and then I started ordering from these 3 different companies I tried, but yeah, they were much better prepared meals. They had vegetables and meats and carbs and all of that, and yeah, no, I felt a lot better for having eaten throughout the day as well. But yeah, no, it was good. I highly recommend also, if you are feeling overwhelmed, to maybe try out some of these things, because they are really good.
That's a great tip, and I think a lot of people do kind of struggle with that, especially if they live alone or something. So great tip,
Yeah.
Leggers. Grahame, I'll throw to you. How do we set ourselves up to form great habits? Have you ever created a good habit for yourself?
The answer to the second question, yeah, actually, sort of not surprisingly, this was some years ago when we lived in a snake-free house or environment. We were doing the 5 a.m. club consistently. Just having an on what Leggers spoke about in terms of accountability, sometimes it absolutely is easier for us to maintain a habit if we have somebody else who's involved in that same habit. That makes it easier. How do we set ourselves up? I'm going to borrow one of Robin Sharma's models. Thanks, Robin, for sharing this with us. Robin calls it the forced optimization system. So Leggers spoke about a version of that. If you want to eat healthier, then just get healthy food delivered to the house. If you want to exercise on a regular basis, find an accountability buddy, or get a personal trainer to rock up to your house. This is something we've used with some of our coaching clients as well. It's a little hard to say, no, I don't feel like exercising, if the person literally is on your front doorstep banging on the door.
That is very true.
Yeah, I just, and going back to what Danette mentioned as well, I think start small. So, you know, can you tag a new habit onto something you're already doing consistently?
Amazing. Well, thanks for that, Grahame. And I think that that's a good point as well. How much can you just force, you to be surrounded by only that option? That gives you a good option everywhere you look.
Yeah.
So love that. Yeah. Let's go to John. John, how do we set ourselves up to form great habits? Have you ever created a good habit for yourself?
I think of all the bad habits I've created for myself over the years, and they were easy. They were very easy. But just building on what everyone else has said, to me, it is, how do you make it easier for yourself? So, you know, I was reading somewhere where someone wanted to learn to play the guitar, but they'd go out to the shed, I guess, to play, to keep the noise. And they brought the guitar inside. And then it was right there next to the TV. Or they didn't want to watch as much TV and they wanted to read a book. Yeah, there you go. So it's right there. And I know, Grahame, you've got yours in there in the where the TV is too. So, you know, access to it, make it easier to access, whether it's buying food or whatever. It doesn't mean you're always going to do it, but it's the ease of it. How do you make it easier for yourself? In terms of something else Leg has said, and it was in terms of doing stuff in the morning. For me, my exercise, I've got to do it of the morning. If I do it of the morning, I know it's done. It's out of the way. It's the first thing. And then the rest of the day can be whatever it is. But yeah, to me, it's get up, do stuff of the morning, and then I'm done. And there was a talk that some admiral that gave at a school in America. But one of the things he talked about was the big lesson that they teach all their soldiers, all their Navy, everyone, is when you get up in the morning, you make your bed. So if nothing else, no matter what your day brings, you have achieved one thing, and that is to make your bed. So you have achieved as soon as you've got up. And that gives you that sense of, well, okay, I can do that. I can do something else. So, yeah.
100%, John. And it gives you the opportunity to get so many wins throughout the whole day. You know, like you start off with one, then you
Yeah.
can just keep racking them up.
Yeah. And again, but whether you rack them up or whether they fall away, it doesn't matter. You've still achieved something. And that sense of achievement, you want to keep going. So you feel good about yourself, you'll keep doing it.
Amazing. Well, great suggestion there, John. And I think that if anybody's started a New Year's resolution, there's a lot to take away, which is great. I'm just going to quickly run through what Alan and Marg sent through, which is so from Al, we've got, I look long term first and work out what my goal is, because often we don't know what the goal that we want is. Then look for the first small step in the direction and start there. For example, when I'm deciding what to eat, I ask myself, will this make me healthier? The answer is often no, lol. And then he's put a laughing face. So that's a great suggestion there, Al. And from Marg, we've got a couple different ones. So one was write down your goals, focus on small steps at a time, and add in some rest days. My good habit is to make sure that I'm getting my exercise throughout the week. I try and move my body daily as a quote unquote timeout for me, especially for my mental and physical health. If I miss a day, then I don't let it get me down. I just make sure I book in time for the next day or when I'm feeling better. So thanks for that, Marg and Al. Now, Marg and Al haven't included a summary of the whole conversation, which would have been lovely if they could have just somehow listened into the future and sort of summarized their thoughts. That would have been awesome, but that's all right. We appreciate them writing in. Now, Danette, I know you have to go, so I'll start with you for this one here. Any final thoughts on today's conversation and good habits and bad habits?
So I think Marg's bit there about the last bit about not sort of beating yourself up a bit is really important. So notice your self-talk if you do miss a day, and don't let it stop you from moving forward. And John reminded me in his last bit about the guitar and the book and TV and stuff. Sean Acor in his book, The Happiness Advantage, talks about a 20-second rule. So if something's 20 seconds or closer, we're more likely to do it. So if you can bring the things that you want to do closer, like if you don't want to watch TV, what he did is take the batteries to the remote and go upstairs and throw them to the back of a cupboard, that it took effort to get the battery. So it was easier to read the book or play the guitar than it was to watch the TV. And make the stuff you don't really want to be doing anymore 20 seconds or further away, because it requires effort and our brain goes, oh, I can't be bothered. So I really like that particular one. I've still got a couple of minutes, so I'll hang around till the hour at least. Thanks, Jez. Great podcast, everyone.
Yes, no problem. And just for everybody that's been listening and wondering why we've been going at a rapid rate, anybody that listens above 1 time speed will be having a field day with this one. It'll be going past like a blur, but it's because we wanted to include Danette for the whole thing. I'll throw to you now though, John, because you were where this is actually up to. So, John, any final thoughts on today's conversation or good habits and bad habits?
No, just to reiterate what Danette said, and it was that book that I was thinking of when that 20-second rule. But yeah, just go gentle on yourself. You know, no one gets it right 100% of the time. We're all human. We're all going to fail. So, you know, falling down is not failure. Just not picking yourself up and dusting yourself off and taking another step forward. That's where, that's what you've got to do.
Yeah, and I definitely agree with that, John. It's also like, if I miss a day, it's not I'm a bad person for missing it. It's just there's other events that have happened, and that's always going to happen.
100%. You know, it's not the end of the world.
Amazing. Well, thanks for that, John, and great to see you again. Always good to have you on. Grahame, I'll throw to you. Any final thoughts on today's good habits and bad habits conversation?
I think if you want to create a new habit, don't do anything except think about why you want to do it. And if you don't have a relatively strong emotional attachment to the why, then do nothing until that emotional attachment turns up. Otherwise, it just becomes too hard. If it's just an intellectual, I know it's good for me, but there's no emotional investment in it, it won't work. Start with why.
Yes. And I think that's a great additional point as well, as how much you can draw from that sense of like emotion. You can find the will in a lot of different ways. So that's a great Great pick up there, Grahame. Thanks for that. And Leggers, any final thoughts on today's good habits and bad habits conversation?
Well, I feel like a lot of good things have been said about sort of like the struggles that people face with building habits, and you know how it's hard to navigate it at the beginning, especially. So I think like, yeah, take it small, as we've all said, and like figure out the steps, figure out the why, and just, yeah, be easy on yourself as you do it, because no one has perfect days 100% of the time. It's very, very rare. Like, especially as a woman, like I have a monthly cycle, and that usually like pushes me right off the bandwagon. So like, you have to be kind to yourself and work with your body and work with your brain, but also remember that you are fighting your brain as well, because they'll want to do what you've always done. So just keep at it and find a friend if you don't think you have the motivation to do it yourself.
Amazing. Well, thanks everybody so much for doing this first podcast of the year, even though we're recording it at the end of last year. I appreciate everyone for being on. I hope everybody that's been listening has been enjoying the Adapt with Danette FM podcast and checking out the book, The Adaptable Leader by Danette Fenton-Menzies. Otherwise, I want to say, everybody, thank you so much for sharing and getting this podcast, the word out there. We hope you've been enjoying it. And as always, everybody, have a magical week.